Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today we are joined by Chris DuBois, who is the founder of the Dynamic Agency Operating System. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Like I say, that intro music gets you.
I know, right?
Before coming on.
Yeah. Can we start off? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Dynamic Agency OS?
Sure. So I am an agency coach. I help agencies with really lead generation. I think that's one of the biggest problems that they all have. And so I figured, let me assist with that because I've built an agency or helped build an agency to do just that.
Right. And can you tell me a little bit about, when these clients that are coming to you and coming, to get help with their agencies, what are some of the, pain points and problems that they're experiencing in their business that you're helping them solve?
Yeah. So most of them are on what we call the revenue roller coaster, where it's feast or famine, right? You have a bunch of leads coming in once and you start actually serving those clients. And while you're focused on that, you're not doing any of your own marketing. And so there's nothing there. So once you finish the projects, you're back at square one. And it comes in a bunch of different phases with even your team, right? You get a team member who's crushing it. They're doing awesome. And then you lose them or someone else. Now you got to backfill some slots. And so the founder steps back into the delivery role. And now they're getting their hands dirty, which they usually love as creative entrepreneurs. But it means the business stuff gets on hold. And so they put off their marketing again. And now we're back at square one.
Right. Now, these agencies that come to you, are they all from like one specific sort of industry or field, or is it very varied or across the board?
So I'm primarily working with marketing agencies. Their industries that they're serving are all different, but I've also acquired tech agencies, app development agencies. So like everything I'm doing kind of helps with all of them. I'm targeting marketing agencies, but with positioning, it's all about who you try to reach, but you can accept whoever you want, right? And so, yeah.
Now, do you find that their problems and their difficulties and the things that they're struggling with are genuinely similar, or is it vast and varied?
For the most part, everyone has kind of the same problems. And everyone feels unique, right, in those problems. But for the most part, it's we don't have clarity on who we're targeting, what problem we solve, and what services we offer. And when we can streamline all of those, makes it real easy to put a good offer in front of people.
And when you are working with these agencies, I mean, because, they do have similar, problems, is your strategy sort of a one-size-fits-all strategy, or do you really have to like highly custom tailor it to the client that you're working with?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer that there is no one best way to do anything. And so when I was building out the Dynamic Agency OS, it was really like, what are those kind of beats that we need to hit within the business to make sure that we're solving for these core problems? But there could be 1,000 ways to actually address them. And so part of my coaching with the clients is like, all right, we have this framework, we're going to start working through this, but let's make sure we're, applying all of the pieces that let your business continue being unique and special in all of those ways, while still addressing like the core issues that everybody has.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit about what the sort of discovery phase looks like when a client comes to you and you're trying to dive into their business and figure out what the problems are? What does that discovery phase look like?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different directions depending on what they're initially coming for, but we need to identify like the actual problem that they're facing. Business, Rand, you're aware of this, is a game of like, all right, where's our current constraint? What's the bottleneck? Let's solve it. Okay, now what's the next one? What's the next one? And so depending on what, their growth side, their team size, how much revenue they're bringing in, right? All of those things will matter on kind of what bottleneck we're focusing in on for that moment. But the actual discovery process is a lot of, how many clients do you have? How long are they hanging around? Do you have a pipeline? Like, are people coming to you to fill? Do you have to go out and like chase people down? How many services do you offer? And like, how does that feel having 30 services on this page. How many of them do you actually use every day? It's just a lot of like kind of the nitty gritty of just agency life to see where are they actually, because even I've worked with some $2 million agencies, right, versus a $500,000 agency, and they had the exact same problems. The $2 million agency just got really lucky with some referrals, things lined up, but they still have all those same issues they never actually solve for. So they can't grow past that until they fix those smaller agencies' issues.
Right. Absolutely. What inspired you to start the Dynamic Agency OS system? I guess that's redundant operating system, but
well, so actually I came out of college. I joined the Army. I was an infantry officer for 7 years. And when I came out, interestingly, not a lot of job options. I don't know the translation between being an infantry officer. It's like, well, two things. I can move around for a long time. I can jump out of airplanes. Like, cool. Doesn't translate well to the business world, I guess. And so started working at a marketing agency. About 9 months later, I became their head of operations. A couple years later, became CEO, and did that for a bit, and then stepped down to start. I want to do something on my own. I was going to get into leadership coaching, but I realized I had a ton of agencies that, because I was in the agency space, they were already paying attention to me. And so we started talking. I started seeing their problems. I started seeing those consistent problems across all of them.
Right.
Became well, what if I just had like the map? Like, I know if you really want to crush it as an agency, your first kind of phase, I guess, is focusing on your team. Let's make sure they have all the competencies. You got a plan for them. They know, what they're good at, how they fit into the puzzle, do all that. Then let's get into the offers. Like, let's make sure, because a lot of agencies get that part wrong, and we might be diving too deep for your question here, but
no,
everybody gets excited when we talk offers, right? It's like, yeah, what can we throw in front of the audience? But they'll throw an offer that their team can't actually deliver. So it's like, well, that's never going to work well, because your reputation's going to fall apart. And then we get into the actual operations, because everybody there thinks like, well, let's just have some SOPs, some processes. Let's do all of this stuff. It's like, yeah, but if you don't have a good offer first, that you actually got great results, what are we trying to replicate with the process, right? Like, we're just kind of putting things together. We're going to replicate mediocrity, basically. And so, so I kind of realized that, there's beats within that system that if we just follow those, then we can be successful. And so, so that was kind of the inspiration for mapping out the whole OS.
Well, first off, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thanks.
And my question is going to be kind of based off of that.
Sure.
Are there any kind of, life lessons, things you learned in the military you find that you are now applying to this business? I mean, is there any crossover? What do you see,
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit. Even so, I'm still in the Army Reserve now. And actually, we had drill weekend. And while I'm in some of these meetings and hearing things, I'm like, man, this is something that like directly applies to my clients. And I like, for this one, it was having an insight register. It's like when you have units will swap out constantly. And a lot of times there are things that get lost in like along the way where it's, hey, we learned all these lessons doing this, but we never actually handed all those lessons off. So now you got to relearn it. Right. It happens every day within an agency. And so it's just like being able to see it from, the operational military side. It's like, oh yeah, you can just do these things.
Right.
But then team dynamics, everything. How do you build strong teams? How do you, exercise command rather than control, so that you can go into an organization and kind of say, hey guys, this is what we're doing, and then let them run with it rather than, having to hold everybody's hand, which is usually what agency founders will do when they don't have necessarily the experience of leadership.
Right.
Because there's really no school to just be a great leader, like right out of the bat. And so,
what are some of the more common mistakes that you see agency owners making when it comes to sort of building that recurring revenue?
So first, they target everyone, any potential audience that they can read. If someone's willing to like have a conversation with them, they're willing to talk to them, try taking their money, basically. The issue with that is then their marketing messaging, what they're putting out to the world, is just, it's loose. It's like, it's not focused in on that one person who needs to hear it. Right. If you're walking down the street and you see someone, you call out their name, like they pay attention right away. But if you just start shouting and stuff, like, well, I guess you could probably draw a crowd by doing that.
Right.
But in marketing, everybody's shouting. Everyone's just trying to be the loudest. And so it ends up not working. So a lot of them get that wrong. Next part is that they don't focus on a single problem that they can solve for. And so they just kind of go in and say, we can help with your marketing. It's like, yeah, it's so vague. But like, what if, we help direct consumer brands increase the average cart size, for their customers and stuff like that, right? They get like just more specific on what they can actually do. And then in their services, you can pull up, and anyone listening to this, like, go pull up an agency website right now, and there's likely a services tab in their navigation. And when you open it, there's going to be a list of like 20 different services. And when you do that, you're just inviting comparison, right? People generally don't window shop for agency work. They have a specific problem there, and they wake up and they say, all right, I got to get that solved. Let me go find an agency that can help. But so when your site just says SEO, web development, right? All of these different things, they can look at it and then go compare it to everybody else who's out there. And now they're looking at price. They're not looking at, can this person actually solve this for me? And so, yeah, when you can kind of nail all of those things, now you can provide a solution to a very specific audience, and you can create that, recurring revenue type model with your offer, so that now you're actually making money in business. It's a little more predictable.
So there's really like a high importance in sort of niching down, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And how can agency owners, that are in a current situation where they haven't niched down, how can they find that niche that needs to be kind of filled? And how can they find that, thing that is uniquely them? What strategies can they utilize?
Yeah. So that's a fun one, and a huge challenge. So if they've been in business for a while, they probably have some information, right? Some knowledge on who do they like working with, who do they get the best results for, what services help. Use those as you go through all of this. But if you have no knowledge of any of that, and you're just like, I need to pick a great niche to fall into so that I can get the work done, the first thing you want to do is vertically align. You want to find that niche, which will likely be it's an industry of some sort, right? If you go to the North American Industry Classification System, NAICS.com, someone at some point decided, like, we should categorize all of these because this is chaotic. And so now there's tons of them, and you can pick that vertical. So, manufacturing. Then from there, I would go into a sub niche or a sub industry, really. So that, because even within manufacturing, textile manufacturing, paper manufacturing, like, there's so many things you can get into. And so just by taking one more level there, it gets a lot more specific in what you're doing. And so once you have your vertical, then you look at the horizontal, which is all based off job function. So I could work with CMOs at manufacturing companies. I could work with HR. And the reason you want to do that is because all HR are going to have generally the same problems, but the way they start talking about these problems is going to be very different, whether you're in manufacturing or tech. And so we want to kind of start narrowing that in, because then we can talk about the problem in a way that they talk about the problem. And so when you get that vertical and then the horizontal, where those cross is now where we focus on the problem set, right? So a HR professional in manufacturing, in textile manufacturing, let's get even more specific, right? We'll have a set of problems that we can now pick one that we want to solve. And we can say, we know you struggle with this. We are the experts in being able to come in and help you knock that out. And so that's where I would go. If the challenge is you need to find a niche that is large enough that you can make money, right? That there's plenty of people that you can work with, but small enough that there's not a ton of competition coming at you, and you can stay super specific in what you're doing.
Right.
And so there are layers you can add to that. Right? We could be local based, right? We only work with these people in this type of company in Louisiana. Right. So you can just keep adding other layers of things. So you find that sweet spot.
And I'm curious. So when you're going to a client and you're going to basically bring them the dynamic agency operating system, is it more of an integration with their current processes and procedures, or is it more of an overhaul of their current processes and procedures?
So I try to keep as much of their current business intact as possible. If something is working, don't change it. Something it doesn't matter what result some coach got and is trying to push on you. Like if you did something and it's working for your business and you're making money and it's like there's no issues, don't change it. Like it's something you should right. You did something right. Embrace it. But yeah, so otherwise it's like, and that's kind of the beauty of this operating system. It's that it's plug and play. So like it's not you need this specific system. It's more you need a system for this. So if it's what you already have, awesome. If it's something we got to pull out, also awesome.
What are some of the strategies that agency owners can utilize to sort of move away from project-based work and move more into a recurring revenue model? And can you kind of, illuminate what the problems is, what the problems are, with project-based work versus the recurring revenue model?
So if you're only doing project work, every project has a conclusion. And so like once that project's done, even if the revenue's awesome, it's like there's nothing after that. And so, and really business is simple on multiple levels. But one, if your recurring revenue outpaces recurring expenses, you win, right? It's that easy. And so when if you're just doing projects, unless you have like a wait list and it's super easy to kind of predict what's going on with your business, it's really hard to be able to model out your growth path and all those things. And so the way I kind of structure this is our core offer is something with recurring revenue. It is all about recurring revenue. Within that, we might have like an initial stage that is strategy, a web project, right? Some sort of project that we have to do, but it comes in that offer. There are some people who show up and just say, I only want a website. I don't need the rest of that. And so we can still sell that. We can pull it away from the core offer and say, yeah, sure, here's a project. We'll do that. And we're going to deliver this with such a high level of expertise. You're going to actually ask us for for recurring work after this. Right. And so we're still including projects. We're doing all that, but we're kind of really prioritizing how can we make sure that we can, in an ongoing way, keep providing value to our clients.
Right. And I mean, can you tell me a little bit about, we talked a little bit about what it looks like, when you're doing that discovery phase, but what does sort of the build out phase look like when you're really going to, implement these new strategies? I mean, do you ever receive any kind of pushback from agency owners where they don't want to implement systems or anything like that?
Yeah. The most, I would say, emotionally taxing stage of this is when we look at their services list and we say, all right, you got to either keep, change, or cut. What are we doing? And we start going through all the different services, because usually, especially if they've been in business for 10 years, they're acquiring all these services along the way where a client says, hey, can you guys also do SEO? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. And then they go like figure out how to do SEO. And now it's on their website as an offer. And so when they're going through this process of like, man, I got to cut some stuff. It's like, it's a draining hour session of working through it. And we almost always 95% of my clients come back the next week and they're like, hey, so I was thinking about all the services we cut. And like, maybe we change that. And so I think that's definitely the pushback spot, but
right.
We can easily, like with math, be like, look, 3 of the services we cut brought you $1,000 all year, right? Like we don't need them. Like they're just watering down. They're diluting everything else that you're doing in your business. So why don't we just, get rid of those?
Right. And, it's interesting that you brought up, math, we can show you with math. And I'm curious, in that sort of analytics space, do you think that, maybe you are already using AI tools to help with analytics? I mean, how do you think AI is going to impact this space moving forward?
Yeah, it's going to completely, I don't want to say revolutionize. It's going to, I don't know what the right term is. I got to think about that one, but it is going to change the game. For the people who are embracing AI, it's going to be a positive change. For the agencies that are not, they're going to be out of business. And so I guess their opinion will matter less than for that instance. But I would just caution agencies. The AI is super powerful. It's a force multiplier for everything you're doing. But everyone comes in with this like scarcity mindset where they say, okay, if AI can do the work of 4 people, that means I can fire 3 of these people and keep 1 and have the same output. And so it's just about cost savings. But if I bring in AI for those 4 people, I now have 16 people. And it's like, that's a crazy number. And the actual learning rate of everything, right? If I have one person using AI, they still only have one person's ability to learn. But if I have them sharing across 4 people, like, hey, I tried this, it worked really well. Now everybody's building on each other. That 16 actually becomes like 20.
Right.
And
Just
so,
an exponential growth. Yeah.
right. And so a lot of people just don't realize yes, AI is a force multiplier, but when you reduce the number you're multiplying by, it doesn't, like, it's less effective. And so I would just tell agencies, keep your team, empower them to be able to use AI, do all these things. And now you can potentially do more work. You can bring in more clients, right? Without breaking everybody. You can start delivering higher ticket offers because you're able to do more, provide more value in the same amount of time. Like, there's so many different things that you should be thinking about with AI rather than just cutting costs.
Right. In your time working in this field, are there any trends that you have seen come and go? And are there any trends that you predict are going to be coming in the marketing space?
So probably the biggest trend that I'm seeing right now is like a downturn in just the amount of work that agencies are taking on. And it's a lot of other coaches are talking about this. I am going to be partnering with a company that just does a massive research study, and they polled like 700 to 800 different agencies, and nearly all of them are reducing in size. Like, some of them expect to be out of business if things continue within the next year. And so I'm seeing that like macro trend, but with individually talking to agencies, I'm seeing it less so. And so it might just be one of those, like, maybe I'm talking to a specific type of person, or the people who are talking to me are looking at doing all this offer development and getting really specific with their niche. And so they're not, they're thinking about hopefully the right things to keep their business going. And so, yeah, I think there's a larger trend of agencies starting to just lose traction. But I'm also seeing the agencies that are specializing and getting really focused on solving a core problem, like, are doing great.
Do you, I know this might be a kind of an off the wall question, so forgive me if it is, but, I mean, years back, it was, the internet came along and provided a brand new sort of platform and space for everyone to market things. And then social media did so again. And do you think that there's any new platform that's going to arise that will be a new place to market things?
No, I think AI is probably the platform that's going to revolutionize everything. I mean, some agencies are literally just slapping AI to the end, like, yeah, we do AI, and companies are like, oh yes, like, it's so much better now. Yeah, I think there's like this kind of market maturity that goes on, right? Like, at some point when the internet was coming out, like, you had to convince a business you need a website. Like, now that's not a question. It's like everyone knows they need a website, they need a digital presence, and so it shifts from, can you get me a website, to, can you get me a great website? And so even within those markets, it's like, I think everything's going to shift a little bit to where people are looking for more of that specialized expertise, and they're trying to find the exact person who can get the best result, not just a result.
Absolutely. When you think back on all the people that you have helped with the dynamic agency operating system, is there a client or a business that really stands out in your mind as having a positive transformation as a result of your help and guidance?
So, yeah, man, that's a loaded one. There are a lot of clients
know, right?
who have gotten a lot of great results from it. The one that probably stands out the most was an SEO agency he went from about 2K in monthly recurring revenue to 84-ish K in about 7 months.
Wow.
And like, just very rapidly hit the ground with, and we didn't even deploy the full system. It was like, let's look at the things that you need to focus on right now to make sure that, you're going to be successful. He focused on a core problem. He had a clear audience he was able to talk to. And actually, and this is a great, if we want to talk numbers, he wanted to go nationwide and just focus on all of these different companies, but he was already doing really well in his local city. And so we pulled up Chamber of Commerce information. We looked at some of the numbers for the businesses he worked with, pulled percentages of those for, only 5% is currently shopping, and like all these different things. and he could become a $6 million agency just focused on that. So it's like, would you be happy with that? And it's like, yeah, I mean, that'd be great. And so it's like, all right, let's focus our targeting. Even though we were targeted local, he still had some bigger like tech companies who came in and said, hey, we'd love to work with you. We love what you're doing. You know, we'd love to see that. And he was able to accept them, even though everything on his website says we're local marketing, right? We're doing local SEO. And so it's like a great example of like, it's really niching and focusing is really about who you're targeting, but not who you're taking in. You can accept whoever you want. But yeah, so he's killing it and he's still growing. And so,
right.
Yeah.
How do you think agency owners can sort of, really nurture those like relationships like that? What are some of the strategies they can utilize
for direct client relationships?
Yeah.
So everyone's first, like, I get it comes down to your content, right? Like how your brand is your reputation. It's all about the associations that people make with everything. And so one, being able to connect with the right people, at the right time and showing them that you're there. Actually, great example for myself. When I was getting into the coaching space, I knew some people who were bigger name coaches, and I did some events with them. And I literally had an agency say like, man, I didn't realize like you were up there with these guys.
Right.
Like I'm not right now, but I mean, I didn't say that. Don't. But that association was like super clear for them that like, oh, if you're talking to them on the same stage, obviously you're at their level. And so it's a really easy way for me to like step that up. And so it's something I get all of my clients to do is I will only play positive sum games. If there's not a way for myself, someone else, my client to win, like if someone has to lose in order for us to win, I'm out. And obviously in business, there's someone has to lose, right? Like the competitor or something like that. But if there's a way that I could get everybody to win, that's a game I want to play. And so I'm really trying to push that mindset onto all of my clients, because then they go in, they say, okay, well, who offers adjacent services here? So that I can create that partnership. I can build that reputation with this person to get to further serve whoever our audience is. And so, yeah, when you get that starting content, now it's just, how do I maintain that? How do I stay consistent and keep giving them what they kind of expect and what they're hoping for from me, so that we're actually building this relationship? And like, I'm sure you've seen, right? If you having a show, it's like, even with the podcast hosts that like we listen to, it's like you feel way more connected to them. But if you met them, they'd be like, I know nothing about you. They're like, I know everything about you. I listen to all your show. Right. But so like that happens with all these brands. And so, yeah, I would say getting the content nailed down is probably the easiest way to like jumpstart that relationship. And then once you can start talking to people, like, that's where it's at.
What advice do you have for agency owners that are sort of looking to scale, but looking to scale without losing the kind of heart and soul of their business?
Come find the Dynamic Agency OS. That's the yeah, it's literally what I'm trying to do is like, your team. So there's no other team or business out there is the exact same. Like I know like we can make jokes about how like you're not actually special and unique because you'll have the same problems, but like really there's something in the lifeblood of your business. So you have different teams. You as a founder are different. You're in a different market, different space, different industries. Like there's so many things that are different. And if you can figure out what you're great at, what you love the most, and just lean into those, like, I mean, making sure not to lose those and stuff, you're going to crush it. You just got to figure out, all right, where are those, when we look at the constraints of the business, where's the bottleneck? What are those issues that I need to solve for in order to keep going? And then within your decision-making framework, you just say, well, by doing this, does it sacrifice the things that we're actually good at? And if you can just go through that kind of that mental model, I think it'd be good.
Well, Chris, this has been an awesome conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of the Dynamic Agency Operating System, where can people find you?
So dynamicagencyos.com is a great place to see more about what we do as a business. But probably the best place, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's chat there.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was an awesome conversation. We really appreciate you stopping by.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Great. And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Chris, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.